So about a week ago, I made a video on the current state of Anthem, explaining a little bit about what's currently going on behind the scenes, what BioWare is working on, and I also talked about the Cataclysm update, which at the time of making this video is still in its testing phase on the PTS, but should probably drop sometimes this month in like a couple more weeks by the looks of it. Previously, I raised a few key issues that I had with the Cataclysm update in the hopes they would reach somebody's ears, and to my surprise, there have actually been a number of changes that directly address these concerns that I had, though I'm pretty sure that wasn't because I made a video about it, it's most probably because everybody else was thinking it too, and BioWare must have realized that by themselves regardless. But anyway, today's video is going to be all about everything that has changed since we last played out the Cataclysm, and I dare even say there might still be a light at the end of this tunnel after all. So we should probably jump right in with everything we have, but before doing so, let me remind everybody of our very own giveaway, which is just 10 more days away. This was organized in collaboration with Instant Gaming, so I'm going to have to thank them for setting it up, and if you want to take part in it, simply follow the giveaway link down below, sign up on their website, and then simply choose whichever game you want to win. The winner will be contacted via the email address provided once the giveaway is over. But with that being said and done, let's jump right into the video at hand, because there's quite a little bit to talk about. I want to first start addressing probably the first thing you'll see as soon as you start playing the Cataclysm, and that is the fact that it got quite a number of visual upgrades that now make it look somewhat closer to the footage we saw in the 2017 trailer and what you would expect from an actual Cataclysm to look like. It's not quite there just yet, but I'll be damned if it's not way better than the blue filter we used to have previously. So leaving aside the intro screen, which seems to have inherited said blue filter, going into the Cataclysm map you will now be greeted by a proper storm. There's actual strong winds blowing the breeze left and right, and some really severe lightning strikes all around you, and these manifest themselves both in air as well as on the ground. In fact, I was left quite impressed by the severity of these new storms, and I didn't feel a noticeable performance drop as a result of them, though this might be a different story when the update goes live on the consoles. A number of other effects have also been added in the game, such as in the free play mode, with the anomalies, for example, also manifesting much wilder energy effects, which even though are thematically different than the old trailers, they still managed to get closer to the violent outbursts of energy we saw back then. So at the very least this will get a plus from me, even though I really hope this is just a starting phase and the Cataclysm will eventually end up being way more severe even compared to this. And I think that might very well be the case, as the sky only features a beginning stage of what looks to be like a hurricane or a tornado or something like that. I don't know, I am not the weatherman, but I hope that is going to be the case. Outside of these, other visual changes have also been added, though are a little bit more subtle, like for example the Cataclysm map being updated to show more details and being in the same theme as every other map we had before, and as a result of this it's also much better at navigating and also showing like the routes that it has in it, so it's definitely way better than what we had previously. Moving on to the loot, my previous biggest complaints was in regards to the low amount of points players would get in the Cataclysm map. If you didn't know this, the higher you score in the event map, the more crystals you get, which in turn you use to buy war chests for way better items. And the prices in crystals for these event war chests can be pretty steep, around 1100 crystals for one single chest to be more precise, which is quite a lot, but it seems BioWare actually went back on this one and readjusted the amount you get from these events. Since I was only able to solo these events and only do it on GM1, this is probably the worst and least productive way of doing it and completing this event, but even so I was still more than able to get a few hundred crystals per turn with a very poorly equipped Storm Javelin. With a roughly 15-minute timer per map as a solo GM1 poorly equipped player, this would equate to about 1 war chest per hour. This would definitely increase even more on higher difficulties and with a full party, as there's going to be added bonus on that on top of what you already make, so on average on the live servers most players will definitely earn more than 1 chest per hour. For reference, the top scores on the PTS are about 4 million compared to just like 100,000 that I used to make as a solo player, which will likely mean at least 4 or 5 war chests in just 15 minutes. This is insane, but would obviously require a very good knowledge of the area and proper usage of teleportation points, but again, this is way better than solo and most people will play in parties. I will most probably make a strategy guide on the update once it goes live on all of the platforms. In the meantime, I'm enjoying this change even though I'm not able to form any parties on the PTS because nobody seems to be playing it anymore. This brings me to the actual rewards themselves, the war chests. Outside of the fact that these war chests contain the best in-slot items at the moment, with 5 levels higher than any other masterwork or legendary in the game, they also drop new and much cooler items and skills that we didn't have before in the game. For example, I was able to get a new upgraded lightning strike ability called Eternal Squall. This is completely different than the regular upgrade, which was called Ponder of Infinity, as it has a much more powerful effect, and it's also more interesting. First, it does about 50% more damage, the cast time is almost instant compared to the old skill, and it also leaves down an electric field that both does a lot of damage to the enemies in the area, but it also primes them for detonation, which is awesome. I don't know about you, but I had so much fun with this that I'm probably going to make a whole build around it if I get the chance to get it on the live servers. Another one that dropped for me from the war chest was something called Arctic Tomb, an upgraded frost grenade, compared to the regular upgrade called Cold Blooded, which only increases your melee damage when you use this ability. Again, a boring flat out buff. Arctic Tomb, on the other hand, has a very cool effect which basically makes all frozen enemies explode and then further freeze everybody else around them, so you can essentially do a chain reaction of freezing, exploding enemies way past the initial frozen ones, and this looks way more interesting than just getting some buffs to your damage. It's way better. You can actually visually see those effects when you use those abilities. And these are just a couple of examples in the gear category. There's a lot more added for each class, and the melee weapons that you can also equip are also much better. Colossus, for example, has a melee attack that pretty much leaves a fire field on the ground when doing a ground slam, but there's way more for each class and each item category, as I was saying. I will make a video on all of the new items and effects, as I find them to be way more interesting than the initial ones we had before. The new legendaries are way better than the old ones, plain and simple, and you will find that soon enough when you get to play the actual update. A lot of these items in fact remind me of the Mass Effect Andromeda series, when BioWare really brought that level of creativity into their skills and abilities, and this is something that I want to see more of in Anthem as well. The next thing I want to quickly go over are the Inversions, because I have a few mixed feelings about them. On one side, I like how they cycle between a number of interesting buffs every day of the week, so one day you might get an interesting buff that gives you immunity to damage when picking up a health pack, or increased damage massively when being on low health, so really cool stuff that could qualify as bonus effects on actual items. The thing I'm not so sure about is the fact that they also cycle through the war chests. This means you're not always going to have access to the exact war chest you want, because the shop will only feature one of the 3 types of war chests for 2 days consecutively, so either a melee, a gear, or a weapons chest. The problem is that if you want a certain type of item, like for example a gear item, but for the next couple of days the shop only displays melee items, then you kinda have to wait out to properly gear yourself up, and it's a form of artificial time gate to keep you away from your goals in a certain way, and I kinda don't like that. Luckily it's only lasting for 2 days per chest type, but I really wish BioWare just threw everything that they had in these shops and let players buy what they want and play how they like. With that being said and done, even though my general impressions of the Cataclysm update and the game are more positive than before, there are still a couple of concerns that are way up on the list. The biggest of them all is still the loot problem. Even though this new map gives you a ton more rewards, and it's generally easier to get legendaries now in the Cataclysm event map, you can still end up with really underwhelming legendaries. There are way too many useless stats on gear that need to be removed or simply remade into a bonus perk system that would be way better, because currently there is little control over how you build your character. Then there's also the lack of proper endgame content. The Cataclysm map isn't as aspirational as I would have liked the Cataclysm to be, so it's not a raid, it's just a bigger event map with one whole boss in it. In terms of rewards, it's better, but you're still fighting like 90% trash mobs all the time, with very few boss battles in between. Again, generally I see the Cataclysm update in a more positive light now, as a result of all of these changes and the feedback that is being implemented. If the studio or the game doesn't get shut down, I think the game can be good and even draw more people in like about 6 or 8 months more. It just depends on how much BioWare is willing to give in to their own views of what this game should be, and instead listen to what the players have to say, especially on the loot problems. But with that being said and done, tell me what you think down below. In the meantime, a thumbs up on this video would be super appreciated. Also make sure you subscribe for more and activate the notification bell, and I will see you guys next time.